I had forgotten with being in the daily tasks of everyday life, I'd forgotten who I was. I had forgotten, on top of that, I was going through this major situation um, that made me feel very lost. So I had to find me again. If we don't deal with our daily feelings, emotions, and in touch with our inner being, we can many times lose ourselves on a daily basis. So that is also a premise for what I'm going to talk about today. So, what did I do back then in 2019 to help me turn it around? I, of course, went to YouTube. I went to YouTube and I Googled things like self-love, how to be happy, things like that. And a few people came up. And fortunately, to my advantage, people came up that had been in the industry of self-empowerment and positive thinking for years. The first person that came up, I'll never forget the video. It was Louise Hayes. And Louise Hayes is an amazing person that has impacted the self-empowerment, positive thinking industry. And she just had some videos out there on self-love. Just look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. Very hard to do, right? When you're in a hard time of your life and you kind of have lost yourself and maybe even some of your self-love. But she was asking me to do this, so I tried. Another person that I ran across was Lisa Nichols. Lisa Nichols is a positive motivational speaker, has an amazing way of speaking. And she also talked about exercises you would do where you would look in the mirror and tell yourself that you loved yourself no matter what, and other empowering strategies she incorporated. And another key person back then, and I write about all these in my book, but that I ran across was Bob Proctor. And at that time, he was still alive. But he also was a very influential person on my thinking at that time. He had talked about his own journey and he had talked about just his transformation in his life from feeling kind of um, helpless to feeling way more in control, and he transformed his life totally. So these were some of the people that really impacted me on my journey. And why do I mention that? Because we all need resources. We all need resources to help us in order to understand this whole self-empowerment journey. And many of these speakers I listened to mentioned books that they had read. So I, of course, got those books and read about them. And I will talk about some more of that in some of my daily habits that I'm going to be embarking on in a minute. All right, that brings me to my next point. Practice versus mindset. So, the title of this podcast today had to do with implementing daily habits that will change your life. So, practice versus mindset. Being a school leader, this is something that we talk about a lot. Do we implement a practice first, or do we change people's mindset first? Which one do you think comes first? It is the practice. If you implement practices, whether you believe them or not, that are good for you, eventually the mindset will change. Why? Because the results will change. And when we see results change, we change our mindsets. So I had to start implementing some practices into my life in order to change my life. So, where did I begin? There were many practices out there, but I knew I had to become a happier person in the moment. I've always considered myself, I write about this in my book, but an optimistic person. I've always considered myself a happy person. But when things happen in our lives, and many times these things happen to us, sometimes we're unaware at the moment that they're happening to us, but the end result is we become somebody, if we're not aware and we're not cautious, we can become somebody that we truly are not at the core of our being. So I started with meditation, and I'm going to talk about that for a moment. This practice has changed my life. I do it every single day since 2019 in the morning. I do not skip a morning. Now, currently being a school leader, I am very close to retirement. However, I am still a school leader and have to leave the house at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. So many of my powerful daily practices and now that are habits, I do in the morning upon waking. So I wake up at 3 a.m. right now. I do go to bed early, and we'll talk about preparation to implement your daily habits into your routine. But I do wake up at 3 a.m. And the first thing I do upon waking, after visiting the bathroom, of course, like we all do, but is meditation. And meditation, why is it so important? Because meditation is getting to that inner voice, that inner being that we all have. And I connect it, depending on your own beliefs, but I connect it to God. But my inner voice is that voice that is trying to reach us, that is trying to talk to us every single day. But many times we don't take the time to listen. But why morning? Morning, because I don't know about you, but I do not wake up my most positive, ready self every single morning, ready to go and full of gratitude and hope. Many times I do. However, starting your day with a daily practice that centers your mind on positivity, on gratefulness, on being thankful, will start each day that way. So you can quickly switch your mind in the morning to something very positive rather than thinking about what you have to do all day long, your busy to-do list, or who needs you as soon as you wake up if you have a family, who needs you first, second, third, etc. You are going to prioritize yourself and your own inner being and start with a daily morning meditation. The payoff is huge, as I have found. That's why I continue to wake up at 3 a.m., a little later on the weekends, maybe 4:30 a.m. But I do still do it on the weekends, and I do not skip a morning because it is that impactful. And let me just preface this too. Part of meditation, when I said getting in touch with your inner being and your inner voice, is strengthening your mind. We have to strengthen our minds. And there's a lot out there. I am not a scientist. I am not a researcher. I am in education and I am a leader. However, what I have found from the people that I have researched is there's a lot out there on the brain right now, the brain research, neuroplasticity, and we have the power to strengthen our minds through practices that allow us to do so. So, meditation and many mindful routines are a part of this journey. So I'll just share with you briefly how I do my meditation. But this is not, I'm not recommending you do it this way. I'm just sharing with you how I do my meditation. It's a very personal journey, and we all are different types of learners. So I would suggest that you do your meditation your way that makes sense to you and resonates with you. But upon waking, I sit in a comfortable chair, and usually it's cold. I live in Wisconsin right now, so it's cold, so I cover with a blanket, get cozy, but close my eyes. And then I center myself by taking 3 deep breaths. Let's take a deep breath right now. And there's brain research behind that as well, as I have learned that when we take deep breaths, especially repeated deep breaths, we connect better with our thoughts and we relax our whole body by doing so. And I think you all know this. But many times we dismiss the deep breaths as something, I don't need to do that. But it is very important for us to take deep, meaningful breaths. And so I do this at the beginning of my meditation time in order to center myself in that moment. All right. And then I am a visual learner, so I connect my meditation with the chakras. If you're unfamiliar with the chakras, I do write about them in my book as well. I have a section at the back that explains them. I am definitely not the expert on the chakras, but I have studied them. And the chakras are 7 energy points in our body. And I start with the root chakra, which is it's a red colored light. It's at the base of your spine. And the reason why I love the chakras is not only that they're visual, but I send my thinking through these 7 chakras, and they go from the very physical into the spiritual. And I love that journey because we are human beings living on this earth, but we also have spiritual journeys. And we need to connect the two every single day in order to be looking at life in a more holistic way. So the chakras really help me, and you can study them on your own if you would like, but I go through them with a mindset that is centered on positive thinking. And I'll give you an example. Like with my root chakra, I talk about gratefulness. And I really think about this as my prayer time. And because I am a believer in God, I connect it to that as well. But I thank Him for everything in my life and that I'm grateful for, from the smallest thing to the largest thing. And I talk about that within my root chakra. And the root chakra talks about family and stability. So this is a great way to start out my meditation daily and then proceed further. But um, but thinking about everything in a positive affirmation way is key. Many of the things I've read and studied talk about us not asking for things in a begging type format, but truly in a positive, affirmative way that this has already happened to us, that it's already come true. We are being thankful for everything we have, including what we don't see in our lives. Okay, so that is how I meditate in a nutshell. It's pretty brief, but I would like to ask you, how do you meditate? Have you meditated before? Some people have shared with me that they meditate while walking in nature. Wonderful way to meditate. Some people have shared with me that they meditate just even in a busy room, which is wonderful. I think it's important for us when we get a grip on our minds and how we're thinking to meditate at any moment of the day is great. Maybe while we're driving, just be careful. Make sure you're alert while you're driving if you're meditating then. But there are many different ways to meditate. But again, before I move on, I strongly encourage you to meditate in the mornings. Some people will say to me, I meditate in the evenings. And I think that's great. It's great. I should meditate myself more in the evenings as well. And I am actually implementing that practice now. However, we have to start our day in the best way possible. And we're training our brain to be the best, most positive self. And what better time to start that than in the morning upon waking? All right, we're going to move on to some other daily habits that I implement as well. So, and I write about these. I'll just show you my book, You Control You. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of blurred there. Sorry. It's on the Mondays Live website. It's on the front page, but You Control You. And I write about some of these other habits in this book as well. And I have to say, meditation probably would be my number one if I were to advise you to start anywhere in terms of just becoming a stronger, more mindful person. And my second most popular, I guess, habit that I would ask you to start is becoming a positive thinker. And you could do this simultaneously with meditation, but it is something that I purposefully worked on because I needed it at this time in my life. And I still do it to this day. It is amazing, even if you are an optimistic person by nature, how many things, right? And people, influences we have around us every single day that influence the way we think. There are so many things around us. People are giving us their opinions throughout the day. There's social media, there's, the TV, the news, etc. So I will share with you a little bit about my journey about becoming a more positive thinker, because I think this one is important as well before I move on to a few others. But positive thinking, I always say there are 3 steps to becoming a more positive thinker. The first step is to become aware of what you are thinking every moment of every day. Just start with awareness. So, this is something you can start today. So, I would jot this down if I were you. But just think about what you're thinking every single day. Was that a positive thought? Was that a negative thought? Or was it a neutral thought? Just become aware. That's the first step. And you will see quickly how many times, even if you consider yourself positive, that you will think of things that maybe aren't so positive. And I learned this one from, I don't know if you've heard of Abraham Hicks, but she is somebody out there also that I found on YouTube. And something she says is to try to shift that thought into a positive one as quickly as possible. So first become aware of your thoughts. And the second step is to shift that negative thought into a positive one immediately. So if you think something negative, like I'll give you an example. Oh, I'm tired today. Nope, that's negative because you're just going to become more tired throughout the day. Shift that into a positive thought immediately by thinking something like, I feel okay. What do you feel good about that day? You don't have to lie to yourself, but you can shift it because there's always something to be positive about or to be grateful for. And being grateful, even that routine on a daily basis is something that is easy to shift because many times we might think about, oh, I want that. I can't have that right now. Shift that negative thought into, I will have that someday. And for now, I'm grateful that I have all these other things in my life, especially when it comes to relationships with people. We have many people in our lives, and many times, right, people can get on our nerves, especially if they are different than us. And that is something, I think it's human nature, but we have to fight it. So instead of thinking something negative about somebody, think something positive, shift it into the positive. Being a school leader, I work with many people throughout the day. I have over 600 children that I work with from K to 8 every day, and I have 80 staff members I work with, in addition to all the students, parents, the families that I serve. So there's many people I interact with, and many times situations can arise that are very negative in nature because I'm the principal. So of course, negative things do come to me because I have to help in solving them. However, I've really I was going to say changed or trained, both, my brain into thinking differently. So instead of thinking what is negative, I listen. I just stop and I listen to the person first. And then I take what they've said and I turn it into a positive. So, what I hear you saying is that you feel this way. I understand you care about your child. Or if I'm talking to a staff member, I understand you really care about the practice that you do every single day. And then we move forward into how I can help them after that. But regardless, these thoughts that we think that are negative can be switched to a positive. So let me review because I got a little off track there for a moment in my story. It was on track, but got a little long. I apologize. I love to tell stories. But let's go back to positive thinking. First, you have to become aware of your thoughts. Second, you have to replace any negative thought with a positive one as soon as possible. And then the third step in becoming a more positive thinker is affirmations, is affirm positive thoughts right away. And you can practice this again by looking in the mirror. Like I talked about in the beginning of this talk today, is you can look in the mirror and say to yourself, I love you. You can say, I'm an amazing person, whatever it is that you know that you need to hear. And you might not believe it again at first, but that's the great thing about affirmations. Eventually, they will start coming true and you will start believing them. So that is another habit that I started implementing every single day. That is a continuous habit, positive thinking for me. I think about my thoughts almost every moment of the day now. You definitely can't do it every moment. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but as much as I can become aware. But you do become definitely more aware. And especially when I think something negative, I turn it right to a positive as soon as I become aware that I'm thinking something. All right, let's move on to a few other daily habits that I have implemented to help me change my life. And I will just talk about these very briefly. You can write them down. If you have questions for me, I would love to answer those questions and moving forward. But another, after I meditate in the morning, another habit I've implemented is writing. in journals such as these, very thin little journals, but I journal every single day. Love it. And I do about a page, but I won't share with you some of my journal content right now. It's personal, but I date every journal page at the top every single day, and I write my thoughts. And these are typically thoughts that have resonated with me from the meditation that I did that day, that morning. So journaling every day is key, but I skipped a step. So I'm going to go backwards for a minute. Something else I do every single day is I read. I read other people's books and books that are about positive thinking, about manifesting the life of your dreams. And I read a few pages from these books, but one thing I want to note here, and I suggest this in my own book, is but sticky notes. I write in my books. I highlight in my books. I make notes in my books. I date in my books. Why do I do this? Some people might not want to write in their books, but I use my books as study guides, especially my positive thinking empowerment books that I purchase. I put dates in there because when I look back, I reread a lot of these books. Different things resonate with me at different points in my life. I don't know how many of you do this practice, but of writing in your books and writing down things that resonate with you. But I use them as a study guide, as life guides. But the reason why I read, so I meditate first, then I read after I get done with my meditation, and then I write in my journal because this series of habits helps me then to just increase that higher level of thinking that I need to tap into daily. So my meditation is personal, then I connect with other people's thoughts, and then I highlight what connects with me and my thoughts, and then I write about that in my journal. Sorry if I got a little wordy there, but I just wanted to make sure you understood my connection with those three habits I do as part of my morning daily routine. All right. Okay. Then other things I do in that I've written about in my book, and I won't talk in great detail about these things. I've already mentioned gratefulness, but gratefulness is definitely, and I know many people, I'm sure you do this, but have gratefulness as a part of your daily routine. Very important to just be grateful every single day. This raises your vibration immediately. But then, of course, thinking about a lot of things I've mentioned have to do with our mental and our spiritual parts of our being. But I also do physical things as well because we have to balance it out, right? And I think sometimes many of us go to the physical first rather than the mental or spiritual. But the physical is important as well. And all three do really connect and align. And the higher you go in your vibration and your thinking, the more that I think you raise your vibration in all of these areas. But definitely, I prepare each day for healthy eating, plan what I'm going to eat. Being a school principal, I'm very busy. Don't get to take my lunch hour many days. And so I eat on the go, but I make sure I always have healthy food with me. And of course, as part of my morning routine, I love to exercise. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but just something that resonates with you and that is good. For your mental and your physical well-being, but I do incorporate physical. But I think what I just mentioned is key here, is balancing your spiritual, your mental, and your physical being, and making sure we're balanced in that way. Because it is when we don't think about that balance is when we become out of balance, like I did back to 2019. And then we have to figure out how to get back to our wholeness. Or as an author I just read, which I'm going to quote her, and you could write her down. She's excellent. She's out there right now on YouTube and social media. But Kathleen Cameron, she's a motivational empowerment speaker, motivator. She does coaching as well. She just wrote a book, The Best of Yourself, and I just read it. It was very good, resonated with me a lot. But what I was just talking about, she mentions this term in one of the pages of her book called Our Oneness, and just talks about how we need, when we tap into our oneness, is when we tap into the whole of ourselves and become the best living version of ourselves. And I really like that term oneness there. And she relates and refers also to God in her book as well. So I'm going to just ask you a question now, because again, this is not the format that I typically like to teach, and I like to have engagement back and forth. So I'm going to ask you to do something to help yourself right now, but just jot this down in your notes. What are some daily habits that you currently are doing to help you in your life so that you can balance out yourself to this wholeness and be the best positive, strong version of you that you can be? So just take some time right now to think about what are some habits you do right now that help you every single day that you're consciously doing. And then write a couple of those down. Okay. Just like to stop and give you some time to reflect. All right. So now we're going to get more into the how. So I've talked about, and I referred to this earlier, how you implement practices that become habits. And how do practices become habits? They become a part of your daily routine. And how do they become a part of your daily routine? You have to prioritize them. I know this sounds easy, right? It's not always easy, but we have to plan for this. But the exciting thing is on the other side awaits that empowered version of you. Remember the visualization we did in the beginning? That is what awaits you on the other side of this. So you can't afford not to prioritize yourself, your holistic self, your oneness. So you need to start doing this right now today. So you're going to have to think about your schedule. So think about where you can schedule, if you don't already have some of the daily habits or routines that I've talked about within your schedule. But you need to create a flow that works for you. But again, I'm going to say this again, is I definitely would suggest prioritizing early in the day. Now, as I mentioned, my kids are older now and they are off creating their own careers right now. So those of you out there that have smaller children at home or have other things that are pressing on your time, especially upon waking in the morning, if I would have known all of this when I was a new mom, when I was in my younger days, I definitely would have prioritized more time for myself in the morning. So I would definitely strongly suggest that you do so. But I know it gets hard because being a parent is not an easy task. Or if you're dealing with maybe elderly parents, whatever your state in life, your stage in life, but you have to take time out for you. It is critical. Self-love, I know we hear this all the time, but it is so true. Self-love, the oxygen mask. You need to put it on yourself first in order to become more empowered for others. Think of it as giving a gift to yourself, but then giving that same gift to others of that more empowered version of you. Because they don't want, when I think back to 2019 and who I had become, I don't think many people that I love and were in my life at that time probably even liked that version of me at that time as well. It was not empowered and it was not my happiest version of me. And if you're not happy, you will not make others around you happy. All right, enough of the lecture. All right, but how can we make these daily habits happen? You have to create that vision for yourself that we talked about in the beginning and then work backwards. All of you in education know there's that backwards design. Like you always think about what do I want children to learn or in business too? And then you create that backwards design of how I'm going to get there. How am I going to break down the tasks into smaller goals so that I can achieve my bigger goal? All right. So that is all I'm going to say about that for now. I wish we had more time to get more in depth of how you can do this, but definitely think about that vision that you have for yourself. Think about your current daily habits that you do. Think about where you're lacking, maybe in your life, where you need to strengthen, and then think about that morning routine. And then how can you incorporate these new habits or strengthening old habits to become stronger so that you can become a more empowered version of you? And that takes me to my next point. The title of my book, as I mentioned earlier, is called You Control You. Sounds like a simple title, and I write in my book about where that title came from. It actually came from working with students in my office. And I still say this to this day, working with adults and students, and some people might get sick of it. Sometimes I even think, oh, here I go again. But it's true. Who do you control in your life? You control you. You control yourself only. Okay? You only control you. You do not control other people. That is strong, and I don't want you to just dismiss that lightly. So, and I go on social media, and some of my links are on the front page of the Mondays Live website. But I go on social media daily and I talk about this, how you can be. I do little 30-second videos to motivate people on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And sometimes people will respond back to me, and I always respond back to people. I love having conversations back and forth with people. But some people will say to me, I didn't ask for this bad thing to happen in my life. I didn't ask for this sickness to happen to me. And that's not what I'm saying here. We don't have 100% control over everything that happens around us or even to us. But what we do control is the way we think about it and the way we react to it. And many times as a school leader, people will say to me, how do you come in every day so happy? How do you have a smile on your face every day? And I say, because I choose to. Because I choose to face life this way every single day. Was it hard back then in 2019 when I was going through a separation and divorce? Yes. Was my smile forced at times? Of course. However, I made it through those tough times by changing my mindset. I didn't change everything around me, but I changed the inside of me and how I was thinking about these things that at the time I perceived negative in my life. Now, when I look back, I think many of these things were meant to happen. And I know that might sound awful to some people, but I do believe that things happen in our lives to make us stronger, to make us a better version of ourselves, a more empowered version of ourselves, to, to help us to become empowered so we can help others to become more empowered as well. I truly believe that in my heart. So it isn't what happens in our lives, it's how we react to those things. And this happens through what I've talked about so far is our mindset, is these daily habits that help us to have a stronger mind so that we can become a stronger version of ourselves, so that we can react to these situations in a much more positive way and actually turn them around from a negative thing to what can I learn from this? And I do this so much better in my life now. It's not always perfect, but when something negative happens, it could be anything, like even your car doesn't start. Maybe your car breaks down, right? And many times in the past, I would think, oh no, here we go, something negative, and your mind would go right to that negative place instead of, it's okay. I'm going to get through this. This is going to be fine. And you think positive and you trust. You trust in the unknown. You trust in your faith. You trust in your inner being because it will be fine. When you think back on situations in your life, think back to what you have in your life to this day. You've asked for many of those things, the positive things, to happen in your life, and they did happen because of your positive thoughts and your prayers and anything you did in your life in order to make them happen. So our minds are powerful. Let's use them in a positive way. Let's use them to make positive things happen in our lives. All right. I just want to make sure I didn't forget anything that I wanted to point out to you there. But all right. I'm going to move on to my next point. So again, let's go back to that best life that we thought about in the beginning of this podcast this morning. Your best life. Think about those 2 to 3 words I asked you to write down that describe your how you would feel if you were experiencing your best life right now. Look back, please. What were those words? Maybe they were happy. Maybe they were free. We all want to be free, right? Free to make choices, free to use our time the way we want to. Maybe you wrote down gratefulness. Maybe you wrote down love. Whatever those words were that resonated with you, think about those words as you start creating your best life using your daily habits today. Okay? But you have to, every single day, with these habits that you are implementing, you have to always clear your mind of the clutter. Clear your mind of the outside noise so that you can tap into that inner voice that you have. Okay? But I'm going to remind you, and I've said this already, I'm going to say it again. Start in a way that is comfortable for you. You're an individual, you learn differently, you have to do what is comfortable for you. But this process takes time. It takes that diligence of day to day. Each day, you might not see. Some days it's hard for me to meditate. Some days I have to redirect my mind back to that meditation, but that's okay. I don't get up from my chair, though, until I've worked through my meditation, until I've worked through those 7 chakras that I know is my goal when I meditate. And I get there. But sometimes it's really tough because we have a lot on our minds. It's hard to clear our minds, but don't give up. And the other thing I've talked about, do, do, do. The other side of that balance is letting go. We have to learn as human beings, we are doers. And especially if you are an achiever, you want to do, do, do. Something I've learned as of late is how to just let go. And that's where these mindful practices can help us as well, is the balance of doing and letting go, right? Life is always about balance. There's always another side to one side, there's another side, correct? So do and implement. I've been telling you to do that, daily habits, but also learn how to let go when you're in that mind space. Let go and let it play out. But keep your thoughts positive as much as possible and know and have the expectation that you will get there. Sometimes we become so anxious. I'm sure you've felt that way. I've done this too, where you want something to happen and you want to do, do, do. But at the same time, now you're working against yourself, right? Because instead you're in the task, but you're not in that higher thinking place. So it is that balance. And I can't stress enough that inner voice that we all have that is trying to talk to us daily. It was funny. I did a social media post a few weeks back and I said, "Do you hear that? Do you hear your inner voice? It is calling you." And somebody commented, I thought it was funny and hilarious, but they said, "No, I only hear you talking on social media." Anyway, but there is always that inner voice of yours trying to reach out to you and trying to call you, but you need to quiet your mind. That's where the letting go is important. So, in just closing, okay, in just closing for today, I would like you to again just close your eyes if you could. Closing our eyes helps center us in the moment. So, if you could just close your eyes and visualize again the best version of you that you want to become. And just think about what daily habits you would like to implement starting today or tomorrow morning that can help you achieve this best version of yourself. Think about what you would have to do in your daily routine in order to make this happen. Okay. And think about how you would feel once you accomplish these daily habits and you start becoming that better version of you that you want to become. think about how you would feel. Okay, you can open your eyes. And I hope that you write down a few of these ideas that you're having, what's resonating with you, how it would make you feel to implement. We all have to change, right? I have a growth mindset every single day of my life. I lead a school right now, and I will be the first to admit I don't know an answer to something. We all should be lifelong learners. We should all have a growth mindset and always be striving to be the best version of ourselves. We can always get better. We can always be stronger for ourselves, for those we love, and for those around us that we impact on a daily basis. And I just want to leave you with a thought as I close for today. Habits are powerful. Some people say, I've looked up some of the research on this. Some people say, oh, do a habit for 3 days. I definitely think 30 days is much better. But then the big key here is keep doing the habit, be persistent, tweak it so that it's better for you, so that it works better for you, but don't give it up. Don't give it up after 3 days. Don't give it up after 30 days. Just keep doing it. That's what I did with meditation. And I will not start my day for the rest of my life without doing meditation and positive thinking and reading and journaling because they are that powerful. And of course, exercising and eating healthy as well. But don't wait for a traumatic situation, something negative in your life, for you to become a stronger individual. Start becoming a stronger version of you now, today, so that when these things do happen in our lives, which they will, okay, things will always happen in our lives, things we do like, things we don't like, but you can become a more empowered version of you so that when you face that situation, it won't look so negative to you. Instead, you're going to face it with a more I can do attitude so that it doesn't devastate you and take over your life or define you. Instead, you just work through it. And this is something, and I really didn't stress this enough throughout, but I just want to say to you before I close as well, is that you can have negative things happen in your life. I talk about positivity all the time. I think people that are around me sometimes get sick of it some days, but I do believe most of the time we can be positive. But if you do feel negative one day and you feel sad, it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel those emotions. You should feel those emotions. Let them out, express them, but just don't live there. Don't let those negative emotions or feelings define you. Just visit, let it go, express your emotions, and then go back to your happy, positive place. Because I think most of us want to be happy most of the time. And if we are happy, we're going to make those around us happy and others around us as well. So I just want to close with, and that really leads me to self-love. So, Valentine's Day is coming up this week. Some of us celebrate, some of us don't, but it's just kind of apropos right now to think about the self-love. Make sure you are giving yourself self-love every single day by taking this time out to empower yourself to be your best version of you every single day. And then you can show love to others around you. Well, that is it for my podcast today. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I would love to hear your comments, any questions you may have, and I love having dialogue with others. So please reach out to me. I have an email at peoplefirstleadershipcoach@gmail.com, and I will respond back to you in email. And please look out for my videos throughout the week on social media. Love to have you tune into those as well and comment. Thank you and best wishes in your journey.
We just had Kim Malakara as our guest speaker on Mondays, live.com. So, Kim, how was it for you?
It was good. I mean, there were moments, but you get back on track. but
We're
it
still
was,
live. We figured we'd do a couple of questions and then we'll
oh,
wrap
okay.
up because yeah, it's just, can you hold up your
Okay.
book, your You Control You
Yes,
again?
I
That's one, yeah.
will. Here it is.
So put it right in front of you. So like this.
Oh,
There
right
we
in front
go.
of me.
There we go.
There
Now
it
I
is.
can see it.
Okay.
So You Control You, you can find it on Amazon, but if you go to mondays.org and go to Kim's page, you'll be able to see it. Thanks, Kim, on
Hmm.
that. So a lot of great ideas and points and talking about, awareness, which is really key that somebody could really be distracted. And that is something they're other than aware of, or at least how it's consuming their time and their attention. So I think it's really important that people have a bit of eye awareness to have what it is that they're thinking and how they're relating to things. So how did you come to that sense of awareness for yourself?
Well, I had to out of desperation and, like I said, with the transformation that happened in my life. So it led me on then this journey. I have to say, in the past, I wasn't always aware of my thoughts as much as I am keenly aware of them now. And also the influence. I think the part of this journey that really stuck out to me the most was the influence around us. And I know many of us are aware of this, but how much other people and well-meaning people even in our lives, but everything can influence us around us. However, that is not who we are. We aren't all of these other people's viewpoints. We aren't all these other things that we hear. We are truly who our inner being says we are, and we need to listen to that.
Getting back to, I guess, source or your
Yes,
central sense of self. Yeah, that's really amazing. So I liked also what you said about how our different life experiences, even though we might be frustrating or not having sort of the experiences we want at the moment, our life lessons and the way that it's bringing us forward into some dimension of this greater awareness that you're referring to. So this You Control You book, how much of that for you is that when you're encountering something, you're having to deal with it, and where other people might lose control, you sort of have a way to sort of see it as a principle of a school. So not only are you dealing with kids, but other teachers who are also experiencing their experiences. How are you kind of a rudder in that regard? Can you share anything that would be relevant?
sure, I could. And sometimes I catch myself in this regard because I mean, situations come up, problems come up, and like I said earlier, you don't want to dismiss anything that's negative or a feeling that somebody might be having, right? But I immediately, my brain goes to fixing the solution. So I always have to tell myself when I'm dealing with other people is to listen first. This goes back to my coaching days, but is to listen first to what they're saying, to affirm what they're saying, but then to twist it then into what is a solution for this problem. And sometimes I find myself going to that solution very quickly, um, because I just want to solve it and move on from there. I don't know if that answered your question, but I do feel, um, that I'm just so aware of these things now that I just want to fix things right away. And but also knowing, so basically in essence I'm saying is we have to balance people's feelings with that too as well, and affirm people's feelings, but um, I guess this type of thinking really gets you more solution oriented. Um, yeah,
That could be a good example too, to just take care of it. Done equitably, everybody's satisfied with the outcome. So it's win-win or the best that you can make it. And so allowing people to move on, which is really, really quite amazing. So again, if you're, hopefully you're not just tuning in, but obviously we do have a replay available to Kim Amalakara, who's a speaker and leader coach. And in that regard, she has the book You Control You. She's really working on a number of really great projects. And she was our guest today on Monday's Live. Any sort of, now again, if you want more information, you can Google her, but you can find her on the mondays.org page, and there are links to her, the book and her website and her social media. Kim, any last, I guess, parting words? And just thinking, I mean, here we are on Monday, lots going on in the world, and we all have to sort of, navigate our way through, and people are looking for ways to live the best life possible. I guess,
absolutely.
what's your bottom line in this regard?
I think my parting words would be grateful. It's a Monday. We're off to a busy week ahead of us, right? And I don't know if the team you wanted to win in the Super Bowl yesterday won, but I didn't watch. But but be grateful. Be grateful every single day for every single thing you have and start. right away. If you don't have a daily routine with useful habits that empower you, start right away. You are worth it.
It's Kim. Kim Malakar is our guest on Mondays Live. You can go to mondayslive.com to watch the replay and to find out her contact information. Kim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, it's pretty good. So you were comfortable, you liked it? You know, we're not recording now, so we're good.
Okay.
I should have muted
You want to
myself
share all
on this.
my thoughts? Yeah, it was good. I mean, I definitely the whole talking at like I like interaction more, but it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's something different for you. So you got
Yes.
the experience of it, and yeah, so different ways, be able to track, and if you're open to it, I mean, I think you did really great, and I'm always happy to coach and say, hey, this is some things that we can work on in the
Sure.
future. Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think we have to define, like, my teacher taught me, my guru shaman guy, about, like, oh, like, so I told you in their world, I'm like Grey Wolf, and he often talked about awareness too. He goes like, well, people can be aware of a piece of, food on the shelf, or they can be eye aware. And so to kind of direct, like, what is my experience like, is a different sort of awareness to bring attention to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think you did really good. I think that could probably be going a little bit deeper to sort of people get, oh, aha, this is I mean, it is leading to self-awareness or some sort of
Sure.
realization of this. Yeah. So I think that was really, really good. I would be a little bit careful about mentioning, Abraham Hicks or related to it, just because,
Oh, really? Okay.
well, because in the New Age realm, it's controversial because you're talking about channeling and there's an entity possibility, right?
Yes.
Is it a good entity or is it a bad entity? And do we want people wanting to
Sure.
connect to something like that? But no, I understand that there are some really great wisdom. Wayne Dyer was a really big fan of the Hicks, but
Yes.
yeah, for your public persona, stay away from
Okay.
it.
Okay. No,
I was just even surprised as a principal that you would even bring it up. Like, wow, I was like,
I'm telling you, she was one of the first back then. And was it a stretch for me? Sure. But is it possible? Absolutely. I think there's a lot to the spiritual world that we don't
you can
even
imagine
talk.
right now we're going to extreme right wing type
Yeah.
agendas, Christian right now. So you'll be burned at the stake if you talk like that.
You're right. You're right. You're
All right.
right. Okay.
So, but otherwise, yeah. So, and then what was good in watching you too, though, is like thinking, oh, yeah. So, it's really great. And then what would be the next thing to kind of dial it in a little bit more? And
Okay.
so, and these things you just haven't had the training on. So there's no blame or fault in saying that you have to
Okay.
be careful a little bit of what's called embedding and implanting. So
Okay.
sometimes your use of words, like I'll just right off the top, like in sort of we call it the refined circles, the use of the word but um,
Okay.
becomes a negator. So whatever you said before the but gets lost, at least been found in neurological research. So it's sort of
Sure.
like, so whenever you have but, it's sort of like, well, wait, you could say and the consideration is this. So
Yes.
we don't, yeah, rare would be the use of the word but for that and just
Sure.
sort of what the reference, yeah.
Do you remember an example I used that word
Or we
in?
use the word a lot, but a lot of times. So actually, when you
Oh,
watch the video, you'll just catch it and
okay.
you'll see it. Yeah. And then now you're aware of it. You see, this is the idea of
Yes.
eye awareness. It's sort of butt
No,
awareness.
words are
Yeah.
powerful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's see. I made a lot of notes, stuff like that. Like, we do have to, in the future, move off of, I think, Zoom to a more better model so things show up better. But it was good. And we got the live stream. So after we're done here, I'll get you the links and you can mail it out to your group or people say, hey, I just had a great show on Mondays. Here's the link to the replay. And
Okay.
for the next 2 or 3 days, it'll just be on the Mondays. I'll move it and it'll be under your page as well. But so let's see. So let me just think of what else was on that. So I look at some of my notes and stuff like that. I know in the
Sure.
moment I was thinking about it, but I can't remember necessarily what the reference was other than just my note on it that could be for coaching in the future for the group.
Sure.
Um, let's see. Oh, so it related to that seeding and embedding and implanting. So certain words have a DIS, which is a disc quality to it. So
Yeah.
when you have ease, it's easy for me to get it. I'm easy with it. But when you have dis entered, you have dis-ease. And so when you kept mentioning a few times about this, and there were no real specific examples, but when you use the word sickness, car breaking down, things like that, I know you want to highlight things, but someone just hearing it,
Oh,
it's an embed for them. It's like, oh my God, maybe someone is sick in their family, or they just got over a
oh,
sickness, or they're worried about coming sick. Now you're putting it into their space, you know.
okay.
Yeah, it's not needed. And I know the intention is to sort of reflect negative to positive.
Right.
Is it because of who you are, you want to stay positive. And then at the end, you kind of flipped it to say, well, I don't want to mean, I don't want to, like you're sort of saying, I don't want to be Pollyannic. Like there are negative
Yeah.
things too, but you're now bringing in at the end something that should have was already addressed because you already brought
Okay.
in the thing. But you're ending it on something like that. So that's not the way to go, you know,
Okay.
just, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
strong comment, but because I feel like I've connected in that, you know,
No, that's good. Yep.
yeah. Um,
That makes sense.
yeah. And your continence was good in the way that your facial expressions and your being was good. You know, your hair and your dress is great. You know, you got your bangle, your gold bangle. In fact, and your background. So I think all that comes across really good. So no problem with that. I think so. You haven't had any media training, so that's part of it. And then role
True.
playing that would be helpful in the future. So that's something I could see we would just do in our group if you were to be part of this mastermind in the future.
Okay.
That other people need as well. I see across the board. I don't think any speaker we've had so far has had media training. And not to say that people aren't natural and in their delivery, um, but how you would respond to media questions and things like that, you don't yet have a clue because you haven't been told like this what goes viral, this would in a good way versus something
Okay.
where people might have reputation regarding, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, but I think all the elements are there for, so what I would work with you on in your image is that you do come across a little bit as a principal, like you're talking to either teachers or children that way. So that has to be worked on a little bit, but that is also
Yes.
a good selling point for your like your Instagram, right? You're the principal. So that could work, you know. So it just has to be uh um shaped or looked at. How would we do it down the road for your next book or if you were going to have a course? It's called like A/B testing. We could have a couple versions of you. There might be slight modifications. However, we would see if there's a market response to it. So if people prefer you this way, that might be the way to go, where they respond to you in a certain way. But anyway, these elements I talked about, like,
Yes.
learning about embeds and seating. In fact, I have it on my list. Hopefully, if I have it relatively handy, because this is one of the things I want to do this week. Oh, I've got it right in front of me. So there's a whole course on this. I don't know if you can see it. Um,
Oh, okay.
so yeah, it's called Embedded Commands Mastery, but this is a high level course for people who studied either advanced hypnosis or neurolinguistic programming, NLP. But we all do it to each other in a certain way. This is the therapist's way to sort of do it. And one other book for you. Hold on. This is going to be something we'll include in the course. Oops. It's like real important on stuff I'm trying to get done for myself before Valentine's Day is, so it's very, very therapeutic, Nancy Dreyfus's work on relationship repair in a flash by showing a card, a flashcard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, maybe we'll have assigned stuff where I could break down like summaries of things, but you're a good example of like reinventing your life, right? So this is it's like CBD type how to break negative patterns and things like that. Jeffrey Young and Janet Klosko. So it's a therapist book again, And then
Okay.
Satir, your style is kind of like Virginia Satir. She was very successful in working with like family therapy and how you would naturally bring people to have this awareness or recognition for themselves. Um, the last thing though, and then I got to kind of jump because it's a crazy day, and plus I'm going to New York in a few days.
Yes.
Uh, Kim, never apologize for anything that's going on because people just tune in or whatever probably weren't aware of it until you brought attention to it. Like, oh, this is not my typical format, or usually I'm doing this or that. They don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not professional, right? So on a radio, you would like a DJ if they were to say, "Oh, sorry, that record skipped." It's like, well, why'd you bring attention to it? If they heard the skip is that. You
Yeah,
know, it's like, yeah, yeah.
right.
So it's like,
Yep. And I do
yeah.
that. I know. Thank you.
Wait, so you want to? So the framework that we're talking about is to say, I did that in the past. Not, I don't
Yes,
reaffirm it.
yes, you're right. Positive
Yeah.
thinking.
Well,
Yes,
this would be a great way to put things together. Yeah. So look, just like everybody else from Tony Robbins and people like that, Deepak Chopra, who first came to the country with, very much heavier accent and not knowing how to present himself as this, sort of Vedic medical doctor,
absolutely.
there's so much potential. So it's directing it and framing it. And sometimes it's a bit rough, so it's not anything to be concerned about because the criticism is seeing the diamond in the rough potential to sort of just chip that little part away. And then you're a diamond or $1 million seller, right? So that's what's
Yeah.
the goal is, right? And it's all
Right.
good. There's nothing like sort of go,
Yes.
oh my God, we just got to work on that twitch you got there or something like that, So
I love the
thank God it's
feedback.
not. Yeah, right, right.
No.
So other things on there, just saying, hey, watch the butts, and the negative
Yes.
impositions on people. We don't want to add weight to their lives. We want to lift it
Mm-hmm.
up. A very good writer for you is Guy Finley. He's really great up in Grants Pass, Oregon. Guy Finley's book he's got a number of books, but his most famous one is called Letting Go. And you
Mm,
referenced making that statement in the talks. I thought, he's still alive, very active, an amazing guy.
mm.
Uh, so, yeah, I mean, there's stuff just to inform things. And one last thing then would be, you mentioned a couple things that you were reading and books like that. So, I still think that what question answer thing you gave me could be like your own self-interview article, and I can help you get it posted. So I would go back when you have time to rewrite and say, this was my experience with Mondays. And here's the link to my page, and they can watch your video and then say, these are the books that I mentioned, and I can put it into your page as well. Because it's always good to do that. Because you did make the mention of them, and maybe someone didn't quite catch it and they don't know that they could hit the rewind button for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they didn't quite understand you. So that way we can give anything you want to mention. I'll add it to the page for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No, really good, Kim. And look, for someone just, in everything that you're doing and your personal growth and where things are at, yeah, it's really good. So
Yep.
I'm giving you, sort of that high level expertise type from my perspective input.
Yes, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Nope. Everything you said, definitely, I agree with for sure.
Yeah. And of course, I always go back to my teachers and go, hey, like I know I'm going to New York, this is going to be one of those transformational experiences too, whether or not I get a book deal. It's
Mhm.
just what I'm going to be doing there. It's like, New York
Yeah.
is always like that for me. So,
Right. Right. Absolutely. No, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's all valuable.
yeah. Well, I look forward to working with you in the future again. Now, so like I said, might not be until mid-March where we have this meeting, but we with maybe a few of us come together. So if like I was mentioning to you yesterday, if you think of somebody else that would be if some of these ideas would be useful for them because they've got potential, whether they want to be a speaker or an author, be on some kind of social media platform. When we do meet again, you should bring them in because one, it'll help inform what kind of mastermind we'll create, but also if I bring other experts and so forth, it makes it more custom tailored to content that we'll do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of somebody right off the top of my head, but I will do some thinking.
Yeah, and it could be people in your world that have influenced you, like the books you read and stuff like that, and say, hey, you
Okay.
don't see enough of them, and maybe they would benefit. Maybe it's amazing. Some authors, they have a cult following, but they don't really do much to enhance it. Like they're not an influencer yet, other than their book. So
Mm-hmm.
there's, yeah. I'll explain this in our meeting in the future. I call it my own invention, the vowel principle. So AEIOU, right? There's a teacher, you're a principal teacher. So the A is we all want to be authority. So you're an author already and a principal. So you already have that on some level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so the E then is now to position you as an expert, as a change flow habit expert. That is kind of a key thing for you, right? Empowerment coach and your leader speaker role. And then provide that as evidence too. And then the I is being that influencer, but also I like to think of it as you're an intellectual and how to come across that way. So I think some of the ideas that we talked about earlier too, we ought to maybe create a Mondays journal or some kind of journal. I have the domain awarejournal.org or .com. Amazing. But I've been thinking for a long time I should launch something that's independent that allows people who are more free thinking that even though it can still be peer reviewed, but it'll be of the quality that goes like something different that we can incorporate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Rather than the challenge of you're not part of our intellectual community, so how can you get published in our journal? You know what I mean? It's like
Sure.
I don't like the stodginess of that, you know, and our ideas are kind of next generation, right? So
Right, right.
yeah, so I think if we collaborate in that way and get you published some articles, so that interview with yourself, I think would be good. And I would, when you have time, just work on that. You've answered your questions, shape it up, add the maybe some more resource material, quote yourself from the book,
Mm-hmm.
and then we could talk in the future about you doing a, you know, and this is not a lot of work to do a podcast or a blog because you just talked today. You can be on other people's podcasts, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll devise it into a course. So that's I think we need to do it as a group, just for me to help more people, but also to make it financially viable. Otherwise, it'd be, you know, yeah, I'm doing one-on-one coaching, and because we're doing this Mondays project, but I mean, it's a lot of work to work with people. So why not do it as a group? And that's why I
Right.
studied theory as part of my thesis. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, you can read that at coachgroups.com. That's my page on my website, you know. That is going to be a book in itself in the future, but it's basically taking other texts and just putting it all together into how to coach rather than just do a group coaching or group therapy, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've thought of possibilities here for myself. So this is all helps inform it. Yeah, so I think that that's really pretty much it. I'll get you the links. I need probably I got to do a few things. Probably an hour or two. You should have it. It's already on YouTube, and what I'll be doing is sending you the file for Zoom, and you keep it in some folder, and then in the future, well, you should watch it when you can,
Mhm.
just to study yourself and be positive in your critique, right? Because you know you can be this one that. It's like no, it's just that's how it, you know, it's first time at bat, you know.
Right, right. Absolutely.
And then you can edit stuff that you like, and that could be material for other things. So it could be a short on YouTube that directs traffic and interest, and it could be part of a module in a course or something that's a teaser to get a bonus if they buy the book or something like that. So that's how you want to start thinking, you know, how something that's shareable that has some impact, not just because you look good, but yes, because you look good, but also you're saying something that's getting people inspired, you know.
Sure.
Or did I finish the vowel? So we got to influencer and intellectual. Yeah. So also to be outstanding is to be an organizer. So at some point, whether it's in your education community, enlightening other principles or whatever groups, you know, could be within a church, a fellowship, we want to look at you taking that kind of leadership role and then as a unifier, you know, so that's the AEIOU, right? So authority, expert, influencer, organizer, and then a unifier. And that way you're going to bring them together. So unifying also means you have your marketplace, and that's who your buyers are, but also you want to turn them into raving fans and people that talk about you. So things kind of have word of mouth as a strategy. And that's things that we would work on. So, and I say that this is our group goal. So a lot of good qualities there, but you can get a head start, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All
And then,
right.
you know, next time we do meet, whether we go out for coffee in Milwaukee or we meet online, think about those other courses you would teach. So it could be related to your next book, but the courses don't have to be a book. There could be a workbook, of course, and there could be like an executive summary that you could publish. Um, Let me grab this other thing too. See, this is all good local stuff too, actually. I'm gonna have to clean up after talking to you. So I actually should have kept the recording for this other part, but like this is University of Chicago's their executive catalog.
Okay.
So there's nothing in here for a 2 or 3 day or even a week that's under 12,000. It's like amazing to me. It's like, wow.
Hmm.
So think on that level I was telling you about before, it's a different function, it's a different you who's commanding those kind of fees in the future. Not that we're going to start there, but you know your value and your worth, right?
Sure.
And then I guess just, by the way, this is my goal activated. I had my success club. This was mid 90s, but it's a
Hmm.
whole year goal planning. When we get together, I'll gift you one of them because my friend Mark in San Diego, who kept it in his storage for 30 years, sent me a box, you know.
Wow.
Uh, but you know, you should pick up. This is the current Shepherd magazine, like Best of Milwaukee, and then this is
Mm-hmm.
also, you know, Milwaukee Magazine.
Uh-huh.
Think of yourself now in this Vols capacity as an influencer and how you would show up. But think, well, gee, this might be something if I had known about it earlier, I would have liked to have been on the committee, the panel, And then think next year, this is last year was the first time I attended the Milwaukee Documentary Film Festival. As you know, I helped start two festivals in LA because just the fact that I moved to LA, they didn't have a festival that just blocked my mind. So I talked to them and they really liked what I was doing. I thought this could be also a podcast. And so I'm hoping to work with them, when they start meeting again in later spring. So
Nice.
in the way that you see stuff, thinking like, well, how do I want to get more involved in the community? Your new life, your new you, and how you show up in that way. And you already have the stats, right? You're a principal, you have a book. These are
Hmm.
all things that, not that you have to brag it out and emphasize on it. They'll be a natural fit. Like, my goal is to move to Milwaukee just because of the networking opportunities that I don't quite see out here, at least with the people that I more identify
Right.
with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Okay.
so that leads us to last thought. That would be like, people have told me, hey, since you moved to Milwaukee and you saw in LA, they didn't have a film festival. Milwaukee does not have a mastermind group itself. Well, most cities do. Chicago, New York, LA have mastermind groups. It's like I've been searching. There are some professional groups like where the CEOs kind of get together, but that's just related. Uh, it's packaged in that way just for them. It's
Okay.
not like a VIP group like who we are, right?
Right.
Influencers and stuff like that. So I'm thinking about that. It's one of the domains I do own. I have a lot of watching mastermind. So I'm thinking, but I only can do it if I'm living there. I think I don't want to be driving back and forth. I mean, it's a 30-minute drive. It's not that bad, but it just reminds me of I don't want to drive too far. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, especially in winter, right? It's like,
Right.
you're going to obligate yourself when there's a blizzard going on. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to go up the street and go to the hotel and there's the meeting.
Right. Right. Yeah. Milwaukee has a lot of great features now. It's definitely grown.
Yeah, so while I'm here, I think I want to make use of it. And you're new friend in the area, and it seems like there's a fit in a number of different areas. So maybe we ought to consider forming a Milwaukee mastermind group. There's a few other people I could talk to, my radio friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They would be the right type for this, but they could help introduce me. So, hmm. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, Kim, you were really great. I really appreciate you playing
Yes.
along, and
Thanks.
I'll send you the video. Yeah, it was good. You have a lot of good stuff there. So we're going to mold it out. It can be a lot of
Yes.
content material that you can monetize and help get you more exposure.
Nice. I would love that. Thank you. And I appreciate all your valuable insight. I appreciate it.
Hopefully, we have some like a conduit for more things to evolve here.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And enjoy New York.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure we'll come back with a good story. All right. Well, you have a great week in the meantime for yourself. So are you heading out to school now, or what do you?
Yes, I have to go to school in a few minutes. I
At
only
least
took
you're all
off a
dressed and ready.
few hours, yes. Yeah. Well, I like to save my time because I only get so much personal time, so I like to save it for important things that come up. So, you know.
Yeah, well, so one thing you could look during your break or lunchtime, if you want to look at it. I think it came off really good. So I have no problem with you like sharing the video and stuff like that. The stuff I'm pointing out, it's like
Yeah, no,
that's
it's
just
good.
for the kids. Yeah, but I'm
And
saying
it's
that's
funny.
what's that?
It's
Funny?
funny because a lot of things you pointed out, I know about myself. I just
Hmm.
have to work on them some more.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. But for most people, they would think, oh, it's a really great talk. It's really just going that, eagle eye,
Yes.
bird's eye perspective. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. I'm
All
sorry,
right.
what were you gonna say before I interrupted? You were saying, no, do you remember? You were talking and then I,
Oh, I'll just say about the eagle's eye perspective, like just the
oh,
finer points. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's where, I'll work with you in a way. It's not me pulling the strings, although sometimes that might be good and say, hey, go talk to the mayor about this idea because you can get funding.
Sure.
Yeah. No, no,
I'm
those are
open.
things. Yeah, those are things that come up. But in this way, it's just more like it's like being in a way, how to relate it, because I've done a lot of seminars with big name speakers that they're always open to direction. I could tell Tony, you need to step to the left to be on camera. I go, oh, okay. It's like it's totally there's no resistance, there's no ego. That could happen though if you don't present it the right way and say it in the way that they're hearing it.
Sure.
And there are stories about that too that weren't me, but were someone like, oh, you shouldn't have said it like that.
That
Yeah.
no, down to earth and
Yeah, no, you're down to it. I appreciate that. No, it's really good because we're looking at the big picture here, and
right,
and things could evolve very quickly if someone's really coachable or they go, "Oh, I get it. All I got to do is do that," and then that
absolutely.
manifests, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And
All
I'm gonna
right.
let you go because I know you got only a little bit of time for you to
No
prepare.
problem. All right. Again, I appreciate everything.
It was a lot of fun, really great talk, and I'm gonna send this to you really quick and then be happy to share the links, and give me any other feedback. But I would like for you to give me that article maybe by next week about your own questions and stuff, and I'll think about how we can repurpose it in some way. About doing a blog or a podcast in the future, what that would be about. And again, you could do once a month. A podcast could be like a magazine, it's not going to be
Sure.
restricted. With
Right.
podcasts, you could do whenever you want to do it. My thing is Monday, so it's Monday, but people
No,
just
I
do it
would
whenever
love
they do.
that. I do
Okay,
need to start doing some things like on a regular basis, and my time is limited right now, but I can do weekends and I can do,
right.
yeah.
And I know you enjoy it, so that also
Yeah.
enhances your creativity, and then that's content that could
Mm-hmm.
be repurposed. Yeah.
Yes,
All
that'd be
right.
great. All right. Thank you. Take care. All right.